on social media, you had made a post or now it was retweeted. Now it's reposted. It wasn't even
Yeah.
And that post, what did that post say?
I had been watching, and people were sending me things that were happening with swimming, and I kept thinking, somebody's going to speak up. This is insane. Somebody's going to say something, and I was seeing nobody.
And when we say speaking of swimming, we're talking about in the NCAA world.
Yes,
we're talking about a biological male.
Correct.
Leah Thomas.
Correct.
Competing, and I'm going to say dominating the NCAA women's swimming scene.
Correct.
Dominating.
Correct. So people were sending me stuff. What do you think? And I just kept saying, this is insane. I don't understand it. I don't understand why nobody is saying anything. Why is no one speaking up? What is happening here? And then a good friend of mine, so Leah was formerly Will Thomas and was a swimmer for UPenn as a male for the 3 years before that. When Leah won the NCAA Division I 500, and as a male swimmer, Will, the highest he ranked in any event was 450 something place. So to show the difference, that's huge. When he won the 500 and was given the awards, I was blown away. A good friend of mine, and I'm going to add this part because I think it's relevant to everything here. I saw the post on a good friend of mine who is a lesbian, right? On her story, I went to where she got it from and then reposted from the original person. And I posted it on my personal Instagram story, not on anything to do with Oberlin's.
And that post, in essence, just congratulated.
I congratulate, and I believe her name should be said a lot. Her name is Emma Wayant. She's the real woman winner of NCAA Division I 500 freestyle events. And that's what the post said. And then my words at the top were, what do you believe? I can't be quiet anymore. I've spent my entire life playing, coaching, and starting sports programs for girls and women. And I was very specific in what I said intentionally.
And were you, I guess when you posted that, and I'll disclose, I've been on the campus of Oberlin many, many times, officiating college basketball games. Right. And that's how we got connected from our mutual friend, Coach Isaiah, who I love. And, you being there, I think some people may think, wow, Oberlin must, as they're listening around the country, Oberlin must be this very conservative college that would have a coach that would be willing to say that. And I'll say, you referred to yourself earlier in this broadcast as am I saying it right? Hippie love coach? How?
Yeah.
Hippie love coach. And Oberlin is one of the most, is it fair to say, liberal institutions in the country?
Yeah, I would put it up there as either the most or definitely one of the most liberal schools in the country. Absolutely.
So, and when you reposted that and put that out there, you were doing it as a coach, but you talked about your daughter earlier in the broadcast as well, Maddie. Were you doing it as a mom?
I was doing it as a coach, a mom, an athlete myself, and for every girl and woman in the world, because it's not just happening here; it's happening in the rest of the world as well.
What did you think the reaction would be?
Honestly, as I posted it, I feel things, and I'm like, could get, who knows what will happen. Yeah. Some people will be angry. Some people will be angry at this post. But not everybody followed me personally on my personal Instagram, and that's where I posted it. Did I think that my own players would, send it to the athletic director? No. Do I blame them? Absolutely not. Having been at Oberlin for the time I was, I would say what is happening there is a microcosm of what's going on all over the country and, certain parts of the world as well. And girls specifically, really care about each other. And when girls are on a team together, guys will hit each other and scream and get in a punching fight, and the next thing they'll be bros again, right? On a sports field. Girls are not like that. And it is really important. Everybody in the world wants to be loved, to matter, and to belong, right? And girls, even more so, the way that happens is very different than the way it happens with boys. Again, we can go down to biology for this and all of the differences there are, but the psyches are different. And I'm not going to say that for every single girl, but being included is so important. So,
Well, and that's what happened in this when you posted it. It was brought to administration's attention at Oberlin
correct.
by a player. The player,
Correct.
and did the player come to you first, or did
No.
the player just bypass that whole process?
She bypassed the whole process, and it was someone who I was very close to. And again, it's one of those situations that I actually understand why she did it.
Yeah, 18 to 23-year-old kids
Yes.
make impulsive decisions. I'm a little older than that. I make impulsive. I
Right.
make mistakes. So
Right.
yeah, it's going to happen.
And I don't blame any of the students for what ensued after that.
We talked about it being towards the end of winter, and then lacrosse.
We were in season.
Yes.
We were in the
Yeah.
middle. We were actually in the middle of our season. And, it happened on a Monday. We had a game on a Wednesday, a game on a Saturday, a game on the next month,
Yeah,
So,
and that's what I wanted to get to because you had all those meetings in season, and then you're having meetings with the team and the sports administration there at the college and everything that's happening and going on. So, and they let you coach. You coached the rest of the season,
I did it.
but then all of a sudden, when the season ended, you received a letter, if I'm not mistaken, that said your behavior needed to change. So
Immediately.
Yeah, immediately. So your behavior apparently was good enough to get through that season, but even though you did what you did during the season, but as soon as the season ended, that's when you got the letter that the behavior must change. They didn't identify the behavior, if I'm not mistaken, did they?
No.
Okay.
And the letter was an actual piece of paper, which who gets pieces of paper letters anymore, especially at that, everything's
Yes,
via
yes.
email, and it was actually nice paper. And the letter was copied to the legal counsel, to human resources, and to the associate AD as well.
Okay.
So after that meeting, I had another end of season meeting that was a review that was devastating as a coach. I knew it would be. And I knew even if everything that had happened during my season had been different, I knew it would be tough based on all of the fall sports coaches of women's teams who had just been ripped apart by their own players in these new athlete evaluations for coaches. And, many coaches had been in my office sobbing because of these reviews. So I teach emotional intelligence and breathing and relaxation. So I prepared myself for that, but it's still, I'm human. You feel the words. And at the end of that meeting, the associate AD he said, I'm so sorry. You're not the only one this is happening to. And I said, I know, and thanks. It's still hard and hurts. But then once all of this had happened and I got that letter, I got an attorney. And he said, do you have to be on campus this summer? I said, no, we're out recruiting and running camps. No lacrosse coaches are ever on campus in the summer. That's when we're finding new kids. And he said, okay, well, you're going to draft a letter and it's going to say this. And when you go back, you give it to them. So the letter basically said, if I'm breaking university policy, please tell me what that policy is. Please do so in writing. And if you're going to fire me, please do it now. So I was called in for another meeting in August.
You went to a lot of meetings.
Yeah. Yes, I did. I didn't before all this.
Yeah.
And it's actually why I started recording all of my meetings with administration.
It was for protection. You had
Yeah.
to protect yourself.
So I saw as a coach things that were, happening when I was there, and the strategic side of me, looked at things and went, I need to protect myself.
Well, because it seemed like in the meetings, the articles, everything, it had that mob mentality, because it was easy to just jump on and pile on and pile on and pile on. And that's the form it seemed to take.
Yes. It was crazy, but not surprising, just based on what I'd witnessed in the few years I was there.
Wow. So we get to the fall.
Yes.
You're back on campus. You give them the letter.
And I am first, before I give the letter, I am yelled at for not being on campus for this, like, where have you been? Okay. Nobody, is typically on campus who's a lacrosse coach in the summer, unless you want to get away from your
Yeah.
little kids or families. But
Yeah.
so I got yelled at for that. And
Now, did they tell you come to campus in the summer? Like,
no,
like,
that's never been.
I-
in all my years of coaching, that's no.
do you have a cell phone? I got in touch with you pretty easily when
Yes.
someone gave me your number. It's not like,
Yes.
yeah, okay, all right,
Yes.
just making sure.
In
I
fact,
wasn't-
pretty much everybody could find me because that's the number that was published
Yeah.
for
Okay.
on Oberlin's website
Yeah.
as if it was our office number,
Yeah.
because every coach is mobile
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Most coach club teams and go to tournaments and run camps and do clinics in order to supplement their income.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went back. The first meeting was awful, and then that's when I handed in my letter. After I handed in the letter, the athletic director did not show up at the meeting to discuss my letter. Only the associate athletic director and human resources director showed up at that meeting, and it was, pretty much a joke because they didn't really have anything to say to me. The human resources director said, well, some people, agree with your opinion. And like, yeah, I know. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
And, he said, people here agree. And I said, yeah, I know.
Did anyone at any time during this process, because now we're 8-9 months into this process, did anyone put the connection together and say, well, we appreciate you standing up for the women in women's sports?
No.
Never.
No.
This was almost...
That's not true. People did privately.
Privately. But
Yeah,
not,
no
not-
administration.
And we're coming on the heels. This would have been on the heels also of the Me Too movement.
So-
On the heels of that, no one's saying, hey, what about these young ladies that are losing the opportunity to compete, and not only compete, but to win?
So this isn't even just about that. When you bring up the Me Too movement, this is what is not being told. So at this point, I have met so many incredible young women who are so courageous, who are speaking up now, who have been affected by biological males, not just competing, but being naked in their locker rooms. These are fully intact men. Okay, and this is where, as a parent, as a woman, you put a 6'5" male in there, and you tell that male's entire team of women that they have to change with him 18 times a week, because they had 9 practices a week, that if they had a problem with it, they needed to go to psych services. And if they still had a problem with it, it was their problem. And not to speak with it to anybody. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about that is I am losing my mind over this, because I was taught, and I have taught every girl, and really boys too, but it's really focused on girls and women. If your gut feeling says you're unsafe, you scream, you run, and you go get help. Girls are being put into situations in locker rooms and now in bathrooms where they are told that it's okay for a fully intact man to be in that space completely naked, and they're not supposed to say anything.
Because if they do, they're threatened to be thrown off the
Right.
team or.
But guess what we're doing? These kids are being groomed to be sexually assaulted. And it's happening. It's happened in Loudoun County, Virginia. It's happening all over, not just sexually assaulted, but trafficked, because now we're telling them, don't listen to your gut. Don't run and be quiet. Don't speak up. Who has taught their kids this? So I'm asking, where are the dads who aren't worried about getting arrested by freaking out? And so a dad was arrested in Virginia.
Yeah.
And then it happened again. Not to his daughter the next time, but this is what people aren't understanding is, so yes to the competition part, right? So it's not just one medal on one stand. It's not just Emma Wayant who lost out. It's every single space behind her. It's every time Leah Thomas got in a pool and competed as a woman, somebody else lost the opportunity to compete. It's roster spots, it's playing time, and then there's physical injuries that are happening. Peyton McNabb is the one I use the most because she has lifelong injuries from getting spiked in the face.
In the face, yeah.
By
yeah,
a male in North Carolina at the high school level. She thought she was going to go on to play collegiately. She still has partial paralysis from that injury that was a year and a half ago, I believe. Another volleyball player was hit in the face in California recently. Field hockey player hit by a ball that was struck by a male player, not trans, but in Massachusetts.
Teeth.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
jaw.
I
Life-changing injuries.
I mean, because, and this is one of the frustrating parts to me is there's, and again, this isn't meant to get political. This shouldn't be a political issue.
This is not political. This is not political.
It's not a political issue at all. But a lot of people say, study the science, study the science. Let's study the science when it comes to anatomy. Let's study the science when it comes to biology. Let's take a look at the male and female bodies, and let's talk about X and Y chromosomes and what does that mean. But no one wants to talk about that. We'd rather talk about feelings and emotions and how someone feels and where they should be and what locker room that one person wants to be in, even though it impacts a team full of young ladies who are going to be, dare I say, scarred for the rest of their lives.